I'm so glad I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just I want to praise His name. So much depression, so much aggression. What's real and who can you trust? Is the purpose of life all struggle and strife? Does it end in ashes and dust? God really cares, He hears your prayers. If you'd only take time to pray. If you can't find the words, you can still be heard. He knows what you're trying to say. That's why I'm so glad I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I want to praise His name. Good morning, everyone. Hello. I hope I'm not too loud. I still feel like I'm a little too loud, but excuse me. Babe, could you do me a favor? And the gold, no, not the gold. Yeah, just that first slider. Bring that down just a bit, please. Yeah, bring it down just a bit. Okay, I think that's good enough. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Utah, and good morning. Let's see. This looks like Everly from Zimbabwe. Good morning, Everly. And good morning, Hushong. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm not sure. But good morning, Hushong. And good morning, Terry. And good morning, Olga. Back again. We're so glad you're here. And good morning, everyone out there in Facebook land. As you can see, I'm here by myself once again. Daryl is still a bit under the weather. Maybe he'll be here next week. We certainly hope so. We certainly hope so. And last week, I actually asked for prayers for not just for Daryl, but also for Nini's mom. She is also doing very well. So for those of you who prayed for her, we'd like to say thank you. And speaking of prayer, why don't we, as usual, start with a prayer? I beseech thee, O my Lord, by the remembrance of thee through which all things have been raised to life, and through which all faces have been made to shine, not to frustrate the hopes I have set on things thou dost possess. Cause me then by thy mercy to enter beneath thy shadow that shadoweth all things. Be thou, O my Lord, my sole desire, my goal, mine only hope, my constant aim, my habitation and my sanctuary. Let the object of mine ardent quest be thy most resplendent, thine adorable and ever blessed beauty. I implore thee, O my Lord, by whatsoever is of thee, to send from the right hand of thy might that which will exalt thy loved ones and abase thine enemies. No God is there beside thee. Thou art alone, my beloved, in this world and in the world which is to come. Thou alone art the desire of all them that have recognized thee. Praised be God, the Lord of the worlds. And this again is a prayer from Baha'u'llah. I do have something else I want to read. And this is from Gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah, just a short passage. And I only hope that I can find the starting place. Here we are. He's actually, Baha'u'llah is actually, this is something that was written to a specific individual, but I like what it says. Great is the blessedness awaiting thee, inasmuch as thou hast adorned thine heart with the ornament of the love of thy Lord, the all-glorious, the all-praised. He that hath attained this station in this day, all good shall be his. Pay thou no heed to the humiliation to which the loved ones of God have in this day been subjected. This humiliation is the pride and glory of all temporal honor and worldly elevation. What greater honor can be imagined than the honor conferred by the tongue of the Ancient of Days when he calleth to remembrance his loved ones in his most great prison? I think that's beautiful. And I'm getting a little direction to shift my direction here just a little bit. So as you know, if you've been joining us, it still sounds echoey. Someone give me some feedback on that. Do I sound too echoey in the Zoom? Yes? No?
You
Yes?
sound pretty good. I mean,
I'm fine.
I don't, yeah, I
Okay.
don't notice any
Okay.
problems.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Um, maybe it's just, I've got another output over here. Maybe it's just on my end. But as you know, we've been reading from the text, Baha'u'llah and the New Era by J.E. Esselmont. Okay? Baha'u'llah and the New Era. And we are on chapter 8. We're on chapter 8. And we finished the section, The Problem of Authority, in which it's pointing out that one of the issues that, well, you know what, I should point out that the chapter 8 is religious unity. Religious unity. And one of the problems, or one of the obstacles to the bringing about of religious unity often has been religious leaders. And Baha'u'llah and J. Al-Samant points to the words of Baha'u'llah to point out that often either ignorance or love of power has resulted in leaders misleading lovers of God. And so in certain times, part of the challenge of just bringing people to God is the problem of authority. Now today we're going to move on to progressive revelation. This is one of the cornerstone precepts of the Baha'i faith. Progressive revelation. You know, every prophet is said to bring about a revelation. But the idea of progressive revelation in relation to unity brings them all together. So let's go ahead and start reading that section. Progressive revelation. A great stumbling block to many. Wait a minute, I'm not going to start. I know what my problem is. It's on my end. Nini, could you do me a favor? On the cube down there, there's a main volume. Oh, wow. No, it's too hard to describe. Excuse me, folks. It's just that it's really loud on my end. It's downright distracting. One moment, please. Test, 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 test. That's better. Okay. Yeah. And once again, when looking for a problem, I find that the problem is me. So let's go ahead and begin reading about progressive revelation. I don't know about anyone else, but this was one of those things that when I first started reading the Baha'i writings, it was mind-blowing. So, progressive revelation. A great stumbling block to many in the way of religious unity is the difference between the revelations given by the different prophets. What is commanded by one is forbidden by another. How then can both be right? How can both be proclaiming the will of God? Surely the truth is one and cannot change. Yes, the absolute truth is one and cannot change, but the absolute truth is infinitely beyond the present range of human understanding. The absolute truth is infinitely beyond the present range of human understanding, and our conceptions of it must constantly change. Our conceptions of it must constantly change. Our earlier imperfect ideas will be, by the grace of God, replaced as time goes by more and more adequate conceptions. Baha'u'llah says in a tablet to some Baha'is of Persia, O people, words are revealed according to capacity so that the beginners may make progress. The milk must be given according to measure, so that the babe of the world may enter into the realm of grandeur and be established in the court of unity. I'll read that again. These are words of Baha'u'llah. O people, words are revealed according to capacity, so that the beginners may make progress. The milk must be given according to measure, so that the babe of the world may enter into the realm of grandeur and be established in the court of unity. It is milk that strengthens, that's the end of that quote, I should point that out. It is milk that strengthens the babe so that it can digest more solid food later on. To say that because one prophet is right in giving a certain teaching at a certain time, therefore another prophet must be wrong who gives a different teaching at a different time, is like saying that because milk is the best food for the newborn babe, therefore milk and nothing but milk should be the food of the grown man also. And to give any other diet would be wrong. Abdul-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, Abdul-Baha says, each divine revelation, oh my goodness, this is huge, folks. Please listen. Each divine revelation is divided into two parts. The first part is essential and belongs to the eternal world. It is the exposition of divine truths and essential principles. It is the expression of the love of God. This is one in all the religions, unchangeable and immutable. I'll say it again. It is the expression of the love of God. This is one in all the religions, unchangeable and immutable. The second part, remember we're talking two parts of each divine revelation. The second part is not eternal. Whoa. The second part is not eternal. It deals with practical life, transactions and business, and changes according to the evolution of man and the requirements of the time of each prophet. The second part is not eternal. It deals with practical life, transactions, and business, and changes according to the evolution of man and the requirements of the time of each prophet. He gives an example. For example, during the Mosaic period, the hand of a person, I think you all know about this. During the Mosaic period, the hand of a person was cut off in punishment of a small theft. There was a law of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But as these laws are not expedient in the time of Christ, they were abrogated. They were set aside. Likewise, divorce had become so universal that there remained no fixed laws of marriage. Therefore, His Holiness Christ forbade divorce. According to the exigencies of the time, the conditions of the time, according to the exigencies of the time, His Holiness Moses revealed 10 laws for capital punishment. It was impossible at that time to protect the community and to preserve social security without these severe measures, for the children of Israel lived in the wilderness of Tah, where there were no established courts of justice and no penitentiaries. But this code of conduct was not needed in the time of Christ. Simply wasn't needed. Good morning, Gilbert. Good morning, Kim. But this code of conduct was not needed in the time of Christ. The history of the second part of religion, this is huge. Listen to this. The history of the second part of religion is unimportant. The history of the second part of religion is unimportant because it relates to the customs of this life only. The history of the second part of religion. I know you probably don't need it, but I want to go back and read just real quick. The second part of the divine revelation is not eternal. It deals with practical life, transactions, and business, and changes according to the evolution of man and the requirements of the time of each prophet. And now we say, yes, that's why it's not important. It's just not important. I lost my place. I got a little too excited there. The history of the second part of religion is unimportant because it relates to the customs of this life only. But the foundation of the religion of God is one. The foundation of the religion of God is one. And His Holiness Baha'u'llah has renewed that foundation. His Holiness Baha'u'llah has renewed that foundation. The religion of God, notice what it's being called. The religion of God is the one religion. And all the prophets have taught it. But it is a living and a growing thing, not lifeless and unchanging. In the teaching of Moses, we see the bud, as in a flower. We see the bud. In that of Christ, the flower. In that of Baha'u'llah, the fruit. The flower does not destroy the bud, nor does the fruit destroy the flower. It destroys not, nothing. It destroys not, but fulfills. The bud scales must fall off in order that the flower may bloom, and the petals must fall that the fruit may grow and ripen. Were the bud scales and the petals wrong or useless then, that they had to be discarded? Nay, both in their time were right and necessary. Without them, there could have been no fruit. So it is with the various prophetic teachings. Their eternals change. I'm sorry, wrong, not eternals. That's a huge mistake. Their externals change from age to age. But each revelation is the fulfillment of its predecessors. They are not separate or incongruous, but different stages in the life history of the one religion, which has in turn been revealed as seed, as bud, and as flower, and now enters into the state of fruition. Into the state of fruition. I love that concept. Again, that section is about progressive revelation. I want to say, I recommend everyone go back and read that if you have the book. I'll recommend that to myself. I'm going to go back and read that again, later, of course. So now we move to the infallibility of the prophets. The infallibility. Where did I put my water? I thought I had some water here to drink. Huh? I have it. I have it. One moment, my mouth is very, very dry. Oh, that's so much better. I said water, it's tea. But now we're going to look at the infallibility of the prophets, something else that with particular prophets that I won't name, are probably hard for some people to accept. Infallibility of the prophets. Baha'u'llah teaches that everyone endowed with the station of prophethood is given sufficient proofs of his mission, is entitled to claim obedience from all men, and has authority to abrogate, alter, or add to the teachings of his predecessors. I'll say that again. Baha'u'llah teaches that everyone endowed with the station of prophethood is given sufficient proofs of his mission, is entitled to claim obedience from all men, and has authority to abrogate, alter, or add to the teachings of his predecessors. In the book of Egon, we read, for anyone who doesn't know what that is a major part of Baha'u'llah's revelation. It's often referred to as the book of certitude. It gives proofs as to why he is the manifestation of God for this day, and that this is the day of judgment. In the book of Egon, we read, how far from the grace of the all-bountiful and from his loving providence and tender mercies it is to single out a single soul from amongst all men for the guidance of his creatures. I'm going to start that again because it's important in context. How far from the grace of the all-bountiful being God, how far from the grace of the all-bountiful and from his loving providence and tender mercies it is to single out a soul from amongst all men from the guidance of his creature, for the guidance of his creatures, and on one hand, to withhold from him the full measure of his divine testimony, and on the other, inflict severe retribution on his people for having turned away from his chosen ones. On one hand, to withhold from him, that chosen one, the full measure of his divine testimony. In other words, he's not giving him the whole story. But on the other hand, inflicts severe retribution on his people for having turned away from his chosen one. Nay, the manifold bounties of the Lord of all beings have, at all times, through the manifestations of his divine essence, encompassed the earth and all that dwell therein. The manifold bounties, the blessings, the guidance, the manifold bounties of the Lord of all beings have at all times, through the manifestations of his divine essence, encompassed the earth and all that dwell therein. And yet, is not the object of every revelation to effect a transformation in the whole character of mankind? A transformation that shall manifest itself both outwardly and inwardly, that shall affect both its inner life and external conditions? For if the character of mankind be not changed, the futility of God's universal manifestations would be apparent. I'll read that again. If the character of mankind be not changed, the futility of God's universal manifestations would be apparent. Again, this is from the Kitab-i-Igan, or the Book of Certitude. And that's the end of that quote. God is the one infallible authority. God is the one infallible authority, and the prophets are infallible because their message is the message of God given to the world through them. I'll read that again. I'm doing a lot of repeating today, I know, but this is such an important concept. God is the one infallible authority, and the prophets are infallible because their message is the message of God given to the world through them. That message remains valid until it is superseded by a later message given by the same or another prophet. Given by the same or another prophet. God is the great physician who alone can rightly diagnose the world's sickness and prescribe the appropriate remedy. The remedy prescribed in one age is no longer suitable in a later age. Wow. The remedy prescribed in one age is no longer suited for a later age, in a later age, when the condition of the patient is different. The remedy prescribed in one age is no longer suitable in a later age when the condition of the patient is different. To cling to the old remedy when the physician has ordered new treatment is not to show faith in the physician, but infidelity. It may be a shock to the Jew to be told that some of the remedies for the world's sickness which Moses ordered over 3,000 years ago are now out of date and unsuitable. The Christian may be equally shocked when told that Muhammad had anything necessary or valuable to add to what Jesus prescribed. And so also the Muslim, when asked to admit that the Bab or Baha'u'llah had authority to alter the commands of Muhammad. But according to the Baha'i view, true devotion to God implies reverence to all of his prophets and implicit obedience to his latest commands as given by the prophet for our own age. Only by such devotion can true unity be attained. Remember, we're still talking about unity here. Now, we keep talking about these manifestations, these prophets. You know, we mentioned most of the major manifestations. We didn't mention the Buddha or Krishna, but we mentioned Moses and Jesus and Muhammad and Baha'u'llah and the Bab. There were others. And the reason I mention that is a little bit of a transition, because now we're going to look at the supreme manifestation. The supreme manifestation. Like all the other prophets, Baha'u'llah states his own mission in the most unmistakable terms. In the Law-i-Aqdas, a tablet addressed especially to Christians, he says, "Lo, the Father is come, and that which ye were promised in the kingdom is fulfilled. This is the word which the Son concealed when to those around him he said, Ye cannot bear it now. And when the appointed time was fulfilled and the hour had struck, the word shone forth above the horizon of the will of God. Beware, O followers of the Son, S-O-N, capitalize, reference to Jesus. Beware, O followers of the Son, that ye cast it not behind your backs. Take ye fast hold of it. Better is this for you than all that ye possess. Verily, he who is the Spirit of truth is come to guide you unto all truth. He speaketh not as prompted by his own self, but as bidden by him who is the all-knowing, the all-wise. Cast away, O peoples of the earth, that which ye have, and take fast hold of that which ye are bidden by the all-powerful, he who is the bearer of the trust of God." And in a letter to the Pope, written from Adrianople in 1867, he, Baha'u'llah, says, "Beware lest celebration hinder you from the celebrated." Beware lest celebration hinder you from the celebrated, and worship hinder you from the worshipped one. Behold the Lord, the mighty, the all-knowing. He hath come to minister to the life of the world, and for the uniting of whatever dwelleth therein. Come, O ye people, to the dawning place of revelation. Tarry not even for an hour. Are ye learned of the gospel, and yet are unable to see the Lord of glory? Wow. This beseemeth you not, O learned concourse. This is still again coming from Baha'u'llah. This beseemeth you not, O learned concourse. Say then, if ye deny this matter, by what proof do you believe in God? Produce your proof. So this is Baha'u'llah pointing out everything you've been waiting for is here, and you're still not recognizing it. That's the end of that quote. Just as in these letters to Christians he announces the fulfillment of the gospel promises, so he proclaims also to Mohammedan, Jews, Zoroastrians, and the people of other faiths, the fulfillment of the promises of their holy books. He addresses all men as the sheep of God, who have hitherto been divided into different flocks and sheltered in different folds. His message, he says, is the voice of God, the Good Shepherd, who has come in the fullness of time to gather his scattered sheep into one flock, removing the barriers between them, that there may be one fold and one shepherd. Wow. I'm going to go ahead and do a song now. Baha'u'llah often referred to his followers as companions of the Crimson Ark. Companions of the Crimson Ark. Crimson Ark referring to the blood that had been shed by so many martyrs who chose to follow him and gave their life for him in their following of Baha'u'llah. And so this song is called The Crimson Ark. Let me make sure it's not too loud. Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Well, they're gathering. Well, they're gathering. Well, they're gathering on that crimson ark. Well, they're gathering. Well, they're gathering. Well, they're gathering on that crimson ark. It's the cause of God. It's the cause of God. It's the cause of God on that crimson ark. It's the cause of God. It's the cause of God. It's the cause of God on that crimson ark. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call? Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? Can you hear the call of that crimson ark? I chose that song today for a number of reasons. One, because to me it's so apropos for what we're reading today. But also, we have a small group here called the Crimson Ark Music Collaborative, and we also have a local choir. It's a community choir, but it's made primarily up of Baha'is. And that's a song we're working on, and it just seemed right for the moment. So now we move on from, the infallibility of the manifestations of God and how Baha'u'llah is the supreme manifestation because of the size of this revelation and the time that is right for today. Okay, that's one of those things that we need to really clarify. So now we look at a new situation. That's the subtopic for now, a new situation. The position of Baha'u'llah among the prophets is unprecedented and unique because the condition of the world at the time of his advent was unprecedented and unique. By a long and checkered process of development in religion, science, art, and civilization, the world had become ripe for a teaching of unity. The barriers which in previous centuries had made a world unity impossible were ready to crumble when Baha'u'llah appeared. And since his birth in 1817, and more especially since the promulgations of his teachings began, these barriers have been breaking down in most astonishing fashion. Be the explanation what it may about the fact, there can be no doubt. In the days of previous prophets, geographical barriers alone were amply sufficient to prevent world unity. Now, that obstacle has been overcome. For the first time in human history, men on opposite sides of the globe are able to communicate with each other quickly and easily. Things done in Europe, and you have to remember when this was written, but I'm going to read it as it's written. Things done in Europe yesterday are known in every continent of the world today. And a speech made in America today may be read in Europe, Asia, and Africa tomorrow. But as we now know, even that time constraint has been swept away. We can know what's going on in other parts of the world immediately. The sad thing is, it also opens the door for a lot of misinformation and disinformation to proliferate around the globe. Unity is even more important. Another great obstacle was the language difficulty. Thanks to the study and teaching of foreign languages, and I might add Google Translate, thanks to the study and teaching of foreign languages, that difficulty has already been to a large extent overcome. And there is every reason to suppose that ere many years, an international auxiliary language will be adopted and taught in all the schools of the world. It seems like that's happening with English, but I might be overstepping my boundaries when I point that out. It may be another language, who knows? Then, I'll read that sentence again. I kind of cut in there. Thanks to the study and teaching of foreign languages, that difficulty has already been to a large extent overcome, and there's every reason to suppose that ere many years, an international auxiliary language will be adopted and taught in all schools of the world. Then this difficulty also will be completely removed. The third great obstacle was religious prejudice and intolerance. Religious prejudice and intolerance. That too is disappearing, I believe it is. We see the high-profile cases of intolerance, but more and more people are starting to see each other in regards to unity again. The third great obstacle was religious prejudice and intolerance. That too is disappearing. Men's minds are becoming more open. The education of the people is passing more and more out of the hands of sectarian priests, and new and more liberal ideas can no longer be prevented from penetrating into even the most exclusive and conservative circles. Baha'u'llah is thus the first, notice it just says the first, Baha'u'llah is thus the first of the great prophets whose message has become known within a period of comparatively few years in every quarter of the globe. What used to take hundreds or even thousands of years in some cases Now it just takes a few years. Baha'u'llah is thus the first of the great prophets whose message has become known within a period of comparatively few years in every quarter of the globe. Within a short time, the essential teachings of Baha'u'llah, translated from his own authentic writings, will be directly accessible to every man, woman, and child in the world who is able to read. And that will be, again, that is most of the people. And I do not know, my phone is not supposed to be ringing at this time, but strangely enough it is. Normally I've got all messages turned off for this period, but anyway, it happens. And so we're going to stop there, and as usual at this time, we always like to allow for anyone who would like to offer up a prayer or a song of your choosing, or even read a passage of your choosing. This is that time. Of course, normally we like to start out with our Andy Murphy moment. Unfortunately, Andy can't join us again today. Anyone who would like to, again, offer up a prayer or writing or song of your choosing, this is that time. Let me grab my mouse here. Please, yes, Olga.
Can you hear me fine? Because I have some connection problems today.
Please.
Glorified art thou, O Lord my God. I give thee thanks, inasmuch as thou hast called me into being in thy days, and infused into me thy love and thy knowledge. I beseech thee by thy name, whereby the goodly pearls of thy wisdom and thine utterance were brought forth out of the treasuries of the hearts of such of thy servants as are nigh unto thee, and through which the day star of thy name, the compassionate, hath shed its radiance upon all that are in thy heaven and on thy earth, to supply me by thy grace and bounty with thy wondrous and hidden bounties. These are the earliest days of my life, O my God, which thou hast linked with thine own days. Now that thou hast conferred upon me so great an honor, withhold not from me the things thou hast ordained for thy chosen ones. I am, O my God, but a tiny seed which thou hast sown in the soil of thy love, and caused to spring forth by the hand of thy bounty. This seed craveth therefore in its inmost being for the waters of thy mercy and the living fountain of thy grace. Send down upon it from the heaven of thy loving kindness that which will enable it to flourish beneath thy shadow and within the borders of thy court. Thou art he who waters the hearts of all that have recognized thee from thy plenteous stream and the fountain of thy living waters. Praised be God, the Lord of the worlds.
Thank you so much, Olga. I'll just point that out. That's one of my favorite prayers. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Sure.
Please, Terry.
Glory be to thee, O my God. The first strings of the spring of thy grace hath appeared and clothed thine earth with verdure. The clouds of the heaven of thy bounty have rained their rain on this city, within whose walls is imprisoned him whose desire is the salvation of thy creatures. Through it the soil of the city hath been decked forth, and its trees clothed with foliage, and its inhabitants gladdened. The hearts of thy dear ones, however, will rejoice only at the divine springtime of thy tender mercies, whereby the hearts are quickened and the souls are renewed, and the trees of human existence bear their fruits. The plants that have sprung forth, O my Lord, in the hearts of thy loved ones have withered away. Send down upon them from the clouds of thy spirit that which will cause the tender herbs of thy knowledge and wisdom to grow within their breasts. Rejoice then their hearts with the proclamation of thy cause and the exaltation of thy sovereignty. Their eyes, O my Lord, are expectantly turned in the direction of thy bounty, and their faces are set towards the horizon of thy grace. Suffer them not through thy bounty to be deprived of thy grace. Potent art thou by thy sovereign might over all things. No God is there but thee, the Almighty, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Some prayer and meditations.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
I would.
Please,
O
Kim.
Lord, unto thee I repair for refuge, and toward all thy signs I set my heart. O Lord, whether traveling or at home, and in my occupation or in my work, I place my whole trust in thee. Grant me then thy sufficing help so as to make me independent of all things. O thou who art unsurpassed in thy mercy, bestow upon me my portion, O Lord, as thou pleaseth, and cause me to be satisfied with whatsoever thou hast ordained for me. Thine is the absolute authority to command. The Bob.
Thank you so much, Kim. Another of my favorite prayers. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
O God, my God, I beg of thee by the ocean of thy healing, and by the splendors of the day star of thy grace, and by thy name through which thou didst subdue thy servants, and by the pervasive power of thy most exalted word, and the potency of thy most august pen, and by thy mercy that hath preceded the creation of all who are in heaven and all that are on earth, to purge me with the waters of thy bounty, from every affliction and disorder, from all weakness and feebleness. Thou seest, O my Lord, thy suppliant waiting at the door of thy bounty, and him who hath set his hopes on thee clinging to the cord of thy generosity. Deny him not, I beseech thee, the things he seeketh from the ocean of thy grace, and the day star of thy loving kindness. Powerful art thou to do what pleaseth thee. There is none other God save thee, the ever forgiving, the most generous. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you so much, Eva Lee. Again, I hope I'm saying your name right. Eva Lee? Eva Lee?
Evely,
Eva Lee. Okay.
correct.
I have to say this. Here we are talking about world unity and how many of the barriers that have, been blocks to world unity have, crumbled and fallen. And, just as a real life example, here we have Olga sharing with us in Zoom from Russia, and Emily joining us from Zimbabwe. And, and on the Facebook feed, we get people from, around the globe. And of course, as far as even those of us that are in the States, most of us aren't even in the same place. I mean, it's such a real life example of what we've read about today. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And as you know, as we always like to point out, this is not just, an individual effort or the effort of a couple of folks that decided, hey, we want to try and tell people about the Baha'i faith. No, we're simply doing what we're supposed to do. As was pointed out, there are no clergy in the Baha'i faith. Don't get me wrong, there is a governing organization, but there are no specific individuals pointed out as the experts in the Word of God. So yeah, we're simply doing what we're all admonished to do. And we always like to say thank you to the Clearwater Baha'is who allow us to use their Zoom feed and their webpage, and they also post this program, this devotion, on their YouTube channel. So anyone who wants to see it, you can see it on YouTube, and of course, you can see it in Facebook as well. And so we're happy that all of you join us. And if there's anyone who does want to get more information about the Baha'i faith, you can get plenty of information by going to these authoritative websites. We always like to point that out. As you can see, we have www.baha'i.org, www.bahaius, and .us, www.bahaiteachings.org. And of course, you can always go to the clearwaterbahais.org website as well. There's another program that always follows this one, and they also post those. They have lots of just really gifted teachers who are very, very, very knowledgeable about not just the writings of the faith, certainly that, but also just other, again, issues of spirituality in these trying times. And one of those um, very, very, very knowledgeable teachers joins us on a regular basis. He's with us in our Zoom most of the time, and I'm talking about Gilbert Hakeem, who is with us right now. So thank you again, Gilbert. And we're going to put this aside for now. And again, as always, as Daryl always likes to say, no matter what you do, no matter where you go for this next week, share the love. Always, let's face it, everyone out there needs it. We need it. So share the love. O people of justice, be as brilliant as the light, and as splendid as the fire that blazed in the burning bush. The brightness of the fire of your love will no doubt fuse and unify the contending peoples and kindreds of the earth. Whilst the fierceness of the flame of enmity and hatred cannot but result in strife and ruin, we beseech God that he may shield his creatures from the evil designs of his enemies. He verily hath power over all things. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, watch over yourselves, for the evil one is lying in wait, ready to entrap you. Gird yourselves against his wicked devices, and led by the light of the name of the all-seeing God, make your escape from the darkness that surroundeth you. Let your vision be world-embracing, rather than confined to your own self. These are the words of Baha'u'llah. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, have a good week, folks. Take care. Hope we'll see you next week. 10 a.m. our time, 10 a.m. Whatever time you your time. Have a good one. Folks, in